The end of the day with Ray. Hello, my friends. Well, folks, if you look on that gigantic sharp interactive board, it says the banker, the power, the OEM conglomerate. I had a dream, ladies and gentlemen. This dream was so vivid, I decided I would make an End of the Day with Ray episode out of it. And what better day to post that episode than right before a holiday here in Americas. Folks, this dream was amazing. I mean, it was like I was watching a movie. So without any further ado, let me share the dream with you. So there was a bunch of people sitting around a boardroom of Masters Trust Bank. And you can see the gentleman from Masters Trust Bank there at the end. He's got a Dynabook laptop. You know, Dynabook, the laptop by Sharp. He likes the Dynabook, I guess. And folks, we got representation in that boardroom from our industry. We got the gentleman from Sharp. You can see his little cup there. We got Konica Minolta sitting at the table. Epson, Fujifilm, Toshiba, Brother, Ricoh, Kyocera, Xerox, Rizzo. They're all there at this meeting. And they're watching my latest episode on Konica Minolta's financials. And boy, in the dream, they would see some of the stuff on that show and they'd be like, holy crap! And they're all looking at the Konica Minolta gentleman. You can see he's got his hand on his head. He's like, oh my God. And you know, they watch the whole episode. And then after the episode, I'm not sure which one said this, but one of the gentlemen said, hey, there was some stuff that was missing from Ray's episode. And I'm thinking to myself, what do you mean I got stuff missing? I mean, I got to tell you, I was getting kind of beat up in my dream. But anyway, this person said, hey, there's some stuff missing, and they wanted to show the slides. They got the slides all prepared. Let me show you what he was talking about. He said, hey, Ray is doing an episode on Konica Minolta's FY24, obviously a disastrous financial year for them. And they're talking on social media about how Keypoint Intelligence was at their U.S. headquarters giving them an award. They got the best MSPs over somebody else's, right? I mean, holy smokes. And this gentleman went on to say he thought that was just a bunch of nonsense distracting the marketplace from their poor financial performance. I would tend to agree with whoever said that, by the way. I wish I knew who said that. And then he said, hey, in 2025, so far, the year just started for Konica Minolta, right? They got 6 distinguished awards. And he went on and started saying that, these awards, really? He thought maybe the award givers should actually, they should talk a little bit about the financial situation of the companies they're giving the awards to, or at least do some investigating, because, at the end of the day, you could have the best MFP in the world, a better pick than everybody else's, but if the company you buy them from ends up going away in a bankruptcy or something, that really wouldn't be good for the end user. And he was saying that maybe these award givers should really start evaluating the financial condition of these OEMs before they get the award. Because he said, look, let me show you some stuff. He said back in 2020, Konica Minolta had 25 distinguished awards and their operating profit loss was over $100 million. Back in 2021, they had 30 distinguished awards. Their operating profit loss was over $150 million. He said, look at this one, 2022, 25 awards, operating profit loss over $650 million. And then he said, hey, in 2023, they picked up 26 awards. They squeezed out a 2.5% operating profit. But then guess what? We all just saw it on the episode, is what he said in the dream. He said in 2024, they got 20 awards, an operating profit loss of $438.2 million. And he went on to reiterate, he thinks that the award givers should really be looking at the financial condition of the companies they're giving the awards to. I tend to agree with him on that. Ladies and gentlemen, he wanted to show this slide. Obviously, I missed it. But he said, we got to look at this imaging solutions business. He said, the end of the day with Ray, he talked about the print business, but this was one of the slides that was missing. He thought it was important. He wanted to share it. He said the imaging solutions business did $744.1 million US dollars for FY 2024. Operating profit loss was $180.3 million. And he said that was a big part of their losses over there. And he said, but what he found really interesting about this was that they forecasted for 2025 that this business group would improve by 10.3 billion yen in business contribution profit. But then the guy went on to say, but after watching Ray's episode, I agree with Ray that the business contribution profit is really just pure bullshit. We really should be focused on operating profit. I'm glad that they figured that out if watching that video. But he said even if they hit their goal of a 10.3 billion yen improvement in business contribution profit, they would still be at zero because they were in the hole 10.3 billion in business contribution profit for FY 2024. So he thought that was kind of crazy. Hey, we're going to really try to shoot to improve by 10.3 billion, but if we hit that number, we're still at zero. I think he was right about that. So when he was all done, they made a change in the conference room. And you could see that the Konica Minolta executive is gone. And so is his cup. And they brought in somebody from Caton. You know, Caton, they want to sit at the big boy table. Well, they're at the big boy table now, right? They're talking. And, you know, the guy from Masters Trust Bank's talking. And he says, you know, we got equity in every one of you, except for Xerox. They don't have any equity in Xerox. They just invited Xerox to the room because they know that Xerox is the largest dealer in the world, and maybe there's a place for Xerox once Master Trust Banks decides what he's going to do with all their investments they got in all these other folks. And he wanted to remind everybody, so he put his own slide deck together. And he said, hey, we got 15.66% of Brother. We got 18.19% of Rico. We got 22.19% of Epson. We got 5.81% of Rizzo. He said Fujifilm, 18.1%. Kyocera, 22.63%. Canon, 6.7%. Konica Minolta, 17.59%. When he said Konica Minolta in my dream, he just was like, Konica Minolta. You know, I mean, obviously, Masters Trust not real happy with Konica Minolta. At least they weren't in my dream. And then he said, you know, we got Sharp over there. We got some equity in Sharp, 6.95%. But then he looked, you know, right next to him at the Sharp person and said, hey, you know, is there any way that you could get Foxconn, who has a big chunk of your equity, and maybe you guys could help clean up some of this stuff? And they had a conversation. Boy, I tell you what, that dream of mine was just unbelievable. It was really a really powerful dream. And then this guy from Master Trust, he was not holding back. I mean, he said, look, you know, we got a lot of investment in all of you. We want some damn results. He starts screaming and banging stuff, you know, like bankers do, because they got a lot of power, right? And then, folks, this is how my dream kind of ended. Well, I saw Konica Minolta, and they were kind of, you know, right in the middle of a bunch of sharks, and I was thinking, which shark will devour Konica Minolta? And then I started thinking this, and it was a really horrific image, and it kind of woke me up, you know? But I started thinking right before I woke up, or will they just feed off the pieces? In other words, Konica Minolta just split all the pieces, and the sharks will just go in there and grab up some of the pieces. It was a pretty vivid dream, but one thing's for sure. I guess out of that dream, I'm thinking that the award givers should really check the financial situation of all the companies they give award to, number one. And number two, well, I believe that Konica Minolta will in fact be devoured one way or the other, either by the pieces or someone's going to gobble the thing all up together. Because everybody watching me knows this, the status quo is the killer of all that'll be invented. Don't get stuck there, and I'll see you all on Tuesday.